Snowbird gets huge water bill. A man from Guatemala arrested at the Villages. Villager gets arrested for blocking the roadway at a busy intersection. Will the amenity fee be frozen for 1 year? A villager gets another hole-in-one. A former county commissioner was named to be on the CDD board of Middleton. A 91-year-old has asked for a furlough from federal prison. Will she get it? The government is dragging their feet on abandoned homes here in the Villages. A Coleman man was arrested and convicted on importing drugs from Georgia, Texas, and Mexico. Chlorine to saltwater. Pipe repairs in the village of Richmond. This and more coming up. Let's have some more news. A Village of Tall Tree resident was jailed after turning himself in on a drunk driving warrant. Edward Allen Porch, 62, who lives in the Ingleside Villas in the Village of Tall Trees, turned himself in Thursday at the Sumter County Detention Center in Bushnell. He was wanted on a warrant charging him with driving under the influence. The New York native was booked at the jail and released after posting a $500 bond. The Department of Transportation has announced that the U.S. Highway 27 and 441 construction misery will continue into 2024. What a mess up there. Sue and I went through that yesterday. Avoid the area at all costs if you can. The widening project has caused huge traffic backups and numerous accidents, with Lady Lake Police repeatedly begging drivers to slow down and pay attention to directional signage. Here's the problem that I see. There's a sign saying right lane ends ahead, and the people act like they're blind to it. They don't see it. They wait till the last minute, and then they start gouging in. That's what causes the backup. Second thing is, most U-turns in Florida are legal, and sometimes I think this state can't do without them. You got to make U-turns all the time. People are making U-turns inside a construction zone, which with a traffic stop in the Villages led to the arrest of a woman wanted on a Columbia County warrant. Kia Marie Jeffrey, 26, of Fort White, was driving a black Ford SUV shortly before 3 p.m. Thursday when she was pulled over for an expired registration at U.S. Highway 27 and 441 at Avienda Central. A check revealed that Jeffrey's driver's license had been suspended in 2017. In addition, she was wanted on a Columbia County warrant charging her with violating her probation on a charge of burglary. The Jacksonville native was taken into custody and booked at the Lake County Jail. Apparently no bond. Villagers are used to seeing dog walkers at the corner of Canal Street and Old Mill Run. That's up by Lake Sumter Landing, near Johnny Rockets. But this week, they were startled to see a young lady walking her horse. Make that a miniature horse. Regardless, as the old song says, a horse is a horse, of course, of course. I'm just taking him out for some air and getting a chance to get around people. The horse's name is Tango, and he is part of Honey's mini therapy adventures. He's a therapy horse. We take him to places where people need emotional support. Tango is still being trained, as part of the reason for his appearance was to get him used to being with the public. He's still fearful of people, so let's take him down to the square where there's a bunch of old retirement people and people walking their dogs. The Villages has retained its title as #1 master plan community in the United States. You notice what it says. I key in on these things. #1 master planned community in the United States, not retirement community, not 55 plus community. There's changes in the wind that I can smell. I don't know when, don't know how. Florida's friendliest hometown had 3,923 sales in 2022, a 2% decline from the record pace set in 2021. The numbers came from real estate consulting firm RCLCO, which has released the results of its semi-annual survey of the top-selling master plan communities of 2022. New home sales among the top 50 master plan communities declined by 20% in 2022 compared to the pace set by 2021's top communities. Rising interest rates and affordability issues, particularly in the second half of the year, have had significant impact on visitors, traffic, and new sales. And it has. I get emails all the time from people, and I hear you. I hear you. I feel you saying that they think they're being priced out, not only because of the rising cost of homes themselves, but even here because of the rising cost of everything around the product you got to buy, labor cost, all these kind of things that our fees here, amenity fees and such like that, continue to rise. And they will always rise, but maybe at a slower rate if the nation ever gets back to normality. I have no answers for you. I really don't. A Venezuelan native driving a vehicle with heavily tinted windows was arrested in Lady Lake. Jose Alberto Lizcano Diaz, 34, of Hollywood, was driving a blue 2006 Acura four-door with South Carolina plates at about 11:30 a.m. Wednesday when he was pulled over on County Road 466 for the suspected window tint violation, according to an arrest report from the Lady Lake Police Department. Lizcano Diaz indicated he is from Venezuela and has been in the United States for about a year, but has not obtained a driver's license. He could not produce the vehicle's registration or proof of insurance. He was arrested on a charge of driving without a license. He was booked at the Lake County Jail and released after posting a $500 bond, of which he probably walked out the door, got in his car that was in violation of everything, and drove away. Impound the car, put it on a lot, pay the impound fees, show proof. Well, when I had a record company, that was called Proof Proper. I just don't get any of this. A Village of Alhambra man was jailed without bond after his arrest in a golf cart at Spanish Springs Town Square. Sam Douglas Bishop III, 35, who lives at 2739 Provado Drive, was traveling in a golf cart at about noon Wednesday at Alonzo Avenue and Alvarez Avenue when he was stopped by an officer who was aware Bishop was wanted on warrants charging him with violating his probation. I'm always amazed how police officers are so observant of all the things that there are, people that are being arrested for, the warrants, the wants, all these kinds of things. And then somebody is so observant, got a mental capacity to just memorize these images like a sponge, that he can sit and see somebody in the car and go, I know that guy's got a warrant. Wow. I mean, just wow. A canine alerted on the golf cart leading to the discovery of Trulieve medical marijuana dispensary containers, which held about 2 grams of leafy marijuana. One container had another person's name on it, and other containers had no name on it. There were also empty alcoholic beverage containers in the golf cart. He was taken into custody and booked at the Lake County Jail. Bishop has a history of arrests at Florida's friendliest hometown, including an arrest after he crashed a Camaro into a post at a carport on the historic side of Villages. He was convicted in 2013 and 2018 of drunk driving charges in Marion County. People tell me that people are getting their medical marijuana certificates where they can go into these medical marijuana places and buy medical marijuana. From what I'm gathering here, there's no limit on how much you can buy. So they go in and they buy so much of this, so much of that, a lot of chewables like gummy bears, you've heard of them. What's the other one? Brownies, suckers, all this stuff is laced with marijuana. And people say, well, yeah, but that's the stuff that you don't get. No. The medical marijuana is the real stuff. And they get, I don't want to say they get high or anything. I know a couple of guys that do it. They just get kind of laid back. That's the best way I can describe it. They just get laid back. I don't really care as long as they do it at home. Just don't do it driving. That's the way I feel about it. I don't care. You're 80 years old. You'll be dead tomorrow. Just go ahead and do what you want to do. I mean, I know that sounds rough, but that's the way I feel about it. But there's quite a few people here that what they do is they get that license for $200, $300, $400, whatever it costs to go to the doctor to get this thing. They're going up and buying a ton of this stuff and then turning around and reselling it for a profit. A guy says, hey, can you get me some of those gummy bears? Yeah, how many you want? I want, whatever. Well, it costs you probably about $50 or whatever it costs. The guy says, okay, I'll do it. So when he goes up to the store next time, he's just filling a grocery list for everybody. That's illegal. And so it's just another thing that cops got to watch out for. A resident of Villages with previous shoplifting convictions was arrested after allegedly stealing items from the Publix grocery store. Loretta Gillett, 53, who lives at 609 St. Andrews Boulevard on the historic side of the Villages, entered the store at La Plaza Grande at about 5:30 p.m. and removed several prepaid bags from the customer's cart, according to an arrest report from Lady Lake Police Department. The New York native walked down the aisle and loaded $171 worth of merchandise into the bags. Gillette stopped in the ladies' room before she paid for $15 worth of items and left the store. She was apprehended after she left without paying for the other items. A check of her criminal history revealed 3 previous convictions for retail theft, including a 2015 arrest after she attempted to steal Susan G. Coleman pink-themed clothing at Walmart in Leesburg. She was arrested on a felony charge of theft and booked at the Lake County Jail on a $5,000 bond. The villager allegedly knocked down to the ground in an apparent golf cart road rage incident. The woman and her husband had been driving separate golf carts at about 5:30 p.m. Thursday in the area of Quartz Avenue in the village of Dunedin when they were passed by 62-year-old Frank DeLito of the village of Dunedin, who was also traveling in a golf cart, according to the arrest report. It appeared DeLito passed them because he believed they were driving too slowly. The woman told deputies he later slammed on his brakes and began following the couple. The couple stopped their golf cart in the middle of the roadway, and DeLito pulled ahead and used his golf cart to block the path of the golf cart driven by the woman's husband. The Massachusetts native pushed the woman to the surface of the roadway, causing an abrasion to her elbow. He got back in his golf cart and drove away. He drove back by a short time later, but did not stop. A dog walker who witnessed the incident backed up the couple's account of what had transpired. DeLito was arrested on a charge of battery and booked at the Sumter County Detention Center, and he was released on a $1,000 bond. Now, let me tell you my interpretation of just what I read. I'm going to say DeLito's not right. He's wrong on what he did, and he should have been charged. But I'm saying somebody on the other side kind of started this. They kind of lit the match that started the fire. He passed them. There are people here that somehow they just have to scream and yell about everything out there. I've had them yell at me back during COVID. Why didn't I have my mask on while driving the golf cart? First of all, it's none of their damn business. I'm in a golf cart. I'm by myself, but they'll yell at you. I almost guarantee you, he passed them. Now, he might have been speeding. Who cares? It's on the interstate every day. People speed every day. Who cares? Somebody yelled at him. Slow down. You're going too fast. That's against the law. Pissed him off because he maybe heard it 2 or 3 times before and he just got sick of it. Drive your golf cart. If you want to go 15 miles an hour, go 15 miles an hour. I'm the guy that's going to pass you. Well, I'm going to do it safely. I'm just not going to, drive stupid, but quit yelling at people. The village's district government is prepared to convert swimming pools to saltwater-based maintenance due to the high cost of chlorine. The district has performed a study of converting all district-maintained pools from a chlorine-based maintenance plan to a saltwater-based maintenance plan. Well, only thing I'm going to tell you is we go to Rockport, Texas almost every year in the motorhome, and I'm planning on going again this year. If you're in Rockport, see you there. They had saltwater pools there forever. And it was in the hot tub that was saltwater also. I went. If you watch my RV channel, I think I even said, they're nice. There's nothing wrong with them. I don't see the big deal. And I didn't see the big deal. A lot of people like them for their reasons, and that's fine. Over a period of time, they have converted their saltwater pools to chlorine. There's something about the saltwater systems, a filtering system, I think. I'm not 100% sure on this. Where they converted it to chlorine. So here we are going from chlorine to salt water. I'm just wondering how long is that going to last before they go back to chlorine? God, I don't know. I think all this is ridiculous. A portion of Burgess Drive, located in the Community Development District 13 in the village of Richmond, will be closed through Thursday, January 12th. You guys can see the map in yellow there. If you see that, that's the road closure. Rainey Construction will be starting an underground construction to replace a sanitary pipe under the roadway. I know it's a brand new area, and I know you're going to think, boy, it must be shoddy work, because I will report shoddy work, but probably not. Here's what happened. We are a sandy soil. They put these pipes in. It happens literally almost in every new area in some way, small, large, but in some way. There's always repairs to be made. We have rain, which you remember after they opened up Richmond, whatever, I think we had a hurricane came through this area, kind of like, well, at least a lot of rain. The sand settles. It gets packed down because when they push it in, there's a lot of air in there and the sand's not packed down. So now it rains, the sand settles, it goes down. The pipes, they joint. They go over each other like that. And there's a rubber seal around it, and they joint sometimes. But when that sand goes down, this pipe may just drop down a little bit, if you can see that. Just a little bit. Just enough to where down here it opens up and it leaks. And then that washes the sand away because it's leaking and actually contaminates things too. But it washes the sand away, which looks like a sinkhole above the ground, but it's not. It just washes the sand away. And so the road or whatever's above it will start to fall. And then they go in and have to tear it out and go in there and take care of all that. So don't freak out. Nothing's falling apart on that job right there. I sympathize with those. Here's how much that your elected officials really care about you and your budget or anything else about you. More political crap. Politicians don't give a rat's ass about you. The project-wide advisory committee is to discuss the amenity deferral rate when it meets next week. Members of the PWAC who oversees amenities south of 466 will meet at 8:30 a.m. Monday at Seabreeze Recreational Center. The Amenity Authority Committee has considered a one-year freeze on amenity rates and has expressed hope that the PWAC might join in that idea. A villager was arrested on a drunk driving charge after pulling her car into her driveway. Linda Peters, 69, pulled into her driveway at about 7 p.m. Monday at her home at 836 Regal Lane in the village of Osceola Hills at Soaring Eagle. Sumter County Sheriff's deputies had been alerted to the situation by a 911 caller. A deputy spoke with Peters and immediately noticed her eyes were bloodshot and her speech was slurred. She said she had consumed one small can of High Noon. She swayed from side to side during the field sobriety exercises, and a deputy had to catch Peters from falling to the ground. She provided breath samples that measured .107 and .104 blood alcohol content. That's not that bad, really, but it's enough. She was arrested on a charge of driving under the influence and booked at Sumter County Detention Center. She was released after posting a $1,000 bond. A villager was arrested at City Fire after an alleged attack on a Sumter County Sheriff's deputy. Good Lord. Some of you people that drink, man, I mean, you must be allergic to it. Carrie Lee Perrine, 53, who lives at Sudbury in the village of Glenbrook, at about 9 p.m. Monday, was very intoxicated and seated in a chair at a table near the bar at the restaurant at Lake Sumter Landing. He had been asked to leave by City Fire staff, but he had refused to do so. A deputy arrived, but Perrine continued to act very belligerent and called the deputy name. Perrine proceeded to push the deputy in the chest. The deputy took Perrine to the ground. Perrine was taken to UF Health, the village's hospital, and after he was medically cleared, the deputy was transporting him in the back of a squad car to the Sumter County Detention Center when Perrine began kicking the rear passenger side door. The deputy pulled over in the parking lot of the CVS pharmacy at US Highway 301 and State Road 44 in Wildwood. The deputy opened the door and told Perrine to stop kicking it. Perrine responded by kicking the deputy in the chest. He inflicted $500 worth of damage to the door. You're going to pay for that. He was arrested on charges of battery on a law enforcement officer, resisting arrest, and criminal damage to property. He was booked at the Sumter County Detention Center on a $16,000 bond. A snowbird contends a meter mistake resulted in a huge bill for unused water at a time when he was up north. After a great deal of frustration trying to straighten out the matter with the village's utility department, William B.J. Thomas of the village of Mallory Square pleaded his case Monday before the North Sumter County Utility Dependent District Board. The 14-year homeowner in the village explains that he always shuts off the water at the main shutdown valve before going home in the summer months months to Ohio. When he and his wife are in the villages, their water usually runs 3,000 to 5,000 gallons per month, which is typical for occupied homes in the villages. The Thompson was shocked to receive a bill that showed he had used 26,220 gallons of water at a time when he was up north and the water was shut off. Thompson added that he has his home checked regularly while he and his wife are in the Buckeye State. Nothing was amiss. I believe him. When Thompson attempted to report the irregularity to the utility department, he got little sympathy. He was told he probably had a leaky toilet. That could happen, I know, but it sounds like this guy's been here long enough that he knows what's going on. Thompson took a social media and soon learned that the other villagers have similar stories. He presented documentation to the NSCUDD board that showed unexplained water usage surge by residents in Duval, Hadley, and Poinciana. He suggested those cases might be the tip of the iceberg. I think there are many out there, and there might be. In the NSCUDD service areas of the villages, contractor Jacobs uses meter readers and blue golf carts who drive to all of the customers' homes in order to laboriously read the meters for billing for water usage. The NSCUDD is hoping to modernize the meter system at some point, but board members know it will all be costly. The NSCUDD board has spent in excess of $200 million within the past 4 years buying the utility infrastructure from the developer. Therefore, it is already saddled with significant long-term debt. The NSCUDD board this week balked at a consultant's suggestion that a 25% rate hike be enacted this year. Well, there you go. Now they're wanting to raise our water rates 25%. It's not to say that they will, but they're looking into it. A man from Guatemala was arrested on a driving under the influence charge at Havana Country Club in the villages. Byron Alexander Guzman Camacho, 22, of Fruitland Park, was at the wheel of a vehicle at 8:30 p.m. Sunday when a Sumter County Sheriff's deputy found he had a strong odor of alcohol and his eyes was glassy and bloodshot. The Guatemalan native does not speak English, and the Wildwood police officer, who is bilingual, was called to the scene to provide translation. Guzman Camacho struggled through field sobriety exercises and provided breath samples that registered 0.162 and 0.157 blood alcohol content. He was taken into custody and booked at the Sumter County Detention Center and was released after posting a $500 bond. A villager was arrested on a drunk driving charge after her car experienced a flat tire and blocked traffic on a busy roadway. Stacy Duro Fitzgerald, 60, of the village of Piedmont, was at the wheel of a white Subaru Impreza at about 10:30 p.m. Sunday, which was blocking traffic at Buena Vista Boulevard and Parr Drive. The deputy who arrived on the scene immediately noticed the vehicle had a flat front driver's side tire. Fitzgerald was alone in the vehicle with the engine running. Her speech was slurred, and she was noticeably sweaty and disoriented. She struggled through field sobriety exercises and provided breath samples that each measured 0.305 blood alcohol content. Oh my gosh. An inventory for her vehicle prior to towing turned up multiple bottles of vodka, which were either empty or partially empty. She was arrested on a charge of driving under the influence and booked at the Sumter County Detention Center. Bond was set at $1,000. Okay, here's the update to trying to get these two political powers here to agree on something about the freezing of the amenity fees for, say, maybe 1 year at a certain rate, which I'm for, because there's a lot of people here that are struggling. The older people are the ones that are struggling because their Social Security and their benefits didn't keep up with inflation. So we'll see. You will love it. The project-wide advisory committee has decided not to explore a freeze in residence amenity fees in partnership with Amenity Authority Committee. I am shocked. The PWAC members, who oversees amenities south of County Road 466, rejected the idea in a meeting Monday morning at Seabreeze Recreation Center. PWAC President Don Brozick said the amenity fees in the villages are relatively low compared to amenity rates paid in other communities. He said it would be a mistake to potentially hold a lower rates at a cost of diminishing the higher standards of amenities in the villages. PWAC member Dennis Hayes said all residents agreed to pay amenity fees when they purchased homes in the villages. That included adjustments in line with the Consumer Price Index. But you know, the one thing we didn't assign a paper for is you taking off the cap. You guys voted to take off the cap. We didn't. When residents bought in, they agreed to amenity fees changing by inflation. The difficulty is if we put a hold on it because of inflation, what happens next year? Members of the AAC, which oversees amenities north of 466, have previously indicated that they could not move forward with a rate freeze without the cooperation of PWAC. The AAC will meet at 9 a.m. Wednesday at Savannah Center. Hey, look, everybody's got their problems in life. You guys that volunteered to be the so-called representatives, this is your problem. And you just keep bouncing around it. Help some of the older people out. You're forcing them out. That's what you're doing. Because if they can't afford to stay here, they're going to have to move on somewhere else, or they're going to fall so far behind, there's going to be a problem. A drunk driving suspect has entered a plea in connection with her arrest after drinking shots at Margarita Republic in the Villages. Nicole Ann Moldenhauser, 23 of Ocala, last week entered a plea of not guilty to charges of driving under the influence, possession of marijuana, and possession of drug equipment in Lake County Court. She remains free on a $1,000 bond. Boldenhauer, whose clothes were turned inside out, struggled through field sobriety exercises. A baggie of marijuana was found in her underwear. Drug paraphernalia also was found in her vehicle prior to towing. The Virginia native claimed she had weak lungs and could not provide a breath sample. A lucky golfer got a hole-in-one Tuesday at the Glenview Championship course. Luis Carlo Auditore scored the lucky hole-in-one at the Stirrup Cup course, hole number 8 at 147 yards. He used a 5 hybrid. Congrats there, Louis, or Lewis. A pair of new community development districts are expected to govern the Middleton commercial area of the Villages of Southern Oaks along Central Parkway near the Coleman Federal Prison. Wildwood commissioners heard the first reading Monday night of ordinances creating the districts and are expected to vote on them later this month. Many of the appointed supervisors are Villages employees. That's the way it works. The developer always picks out the supervisors for a new area. The Middleton Downtown Community Development Districts would cover about 61 acres with about 350,000 square feet of commercial space. About $50.4 million will be spent on utilities, roadways, and water retention areas. Board members will be Dennis Stradinger, Chairman Steve Prince, Vice Chairman, Lon Levins, Secretary, Treasurer, and Supervisors Allison Emily and John Weber. Stradinger is a vice president of the Villages, while Prince is a former Sumter County supervisor. Levins is a former Community Development District 12 supervisor. The Eastport Community Development District will cover about 50 acres and will include about 250,000 square feet of commercial space, possibly some residential, and about $50.7 million in improvements that include parking, landscaping, roadways, and stormwater collection system. The Eastport Board will include Heather Owens, Chairwoman, John Judge, Vice Chairman, Gino Joaquin, Secretary Treasurer, and Supervisors David Lewis and Ashley Abbott. Judge is Village's Controller, while Jacquin is Commercial Development Director and Abbott is Commercial Purchasing Coordinator. Commissioners also approved a final plat for Middleton Unit 1, the first neighborhood south of Central Parkway of County Road 470. The development will have 250 homes and 177 acres. The good old boy system is hard at work. Remember last week, the lady that was sentenced, the 90-year-old lady that was sentenced to 5 years of federal prison for running over those people in a bicycle? And she was asking to be furloughed just a little bit so she could get in contact with her daughter in California to get her affairs in order before she goes to prison, because there's a real good chance she's not coming out of prison at that age. Here's the update to that. A judge has denied a furlough for a 91-year-old villager convicted of running down two bicyclists. An attorney representing Marilyn Hamilton of the village of Gilchrist had asked for an emergency furlough for his client after she spent 2 weeks in a Sumter County detention center. She had been held there since December 20 when she was sentenced to 5 years in prison. On the day of sentencing, she immediately was taken out of the courtroom to jail. Hamilton's attorney sought the furlough because he said she needed time to get her affairs in order. Last week, Hamilton was transferred to the Florida Department of Corrections and released from the custody of the sheriff's office. Judge Mary Hatcher on Monday denied the request for a furlough, citing the fact that Hamilton is now in state custody. It's too bad. You know, all of this could have been avoided. Not that she wouldn't have been punished in any way. I'm not saying that. But I believe all this jail time for this lady could have been avoided if she just hadn't have left the scene of the accident. The government is apparently dragging his feet with cleanup at a dead couple's abandoned home in the Villages. The home, located at 739 Cortez Avenue, was the subject of a public hearing Wednesday afternoon before the Village Center Community Development District Board of Supervisors at Savannah Center. A complaint was received by community standards on November 14th about mold on the home, overgrown bushes, and dead grass. I'm sure you guys either can see the home or you've already seen the home. It's a nice looking home. I'm sure that if they would just simply put this house up for sale, whoever's in charge here, at a reasonable price, come on, because it's going to probably need some updating inside, it would probably sell pretty quick. I don't understand this stuff. Community standards determined the property's owners, Fred and June Powell, are deceased. She died 2019 at age 92. It is not clear when he died. The utilities have been shut off and there is an unpaid balance. The property is currently under the Department of Housing and Urban Development. HUD's Property Preservation Company, Guardian Assets Management, indicated it was in the process of obtaining a bid for the cleanup of the mold. All it is the house wash. Just get the house washed on the outside and all that green mold comes off. Good God, quit being stupid here. These people act like they don't know nothing. And this is your government at work. As of this week, the property had not been brought into compliance and no work had been performed. The VCCDD board ordered the property to be cleaned up and the yard resodded or reseeded. If the work is not completed within 30 days, a series of fines will be imposed. Yeah, we'll see how that works out for you. Other officials in the Villages have voiced their frustration at HUD's lack of action at abandoned homes in the Villages. A 27-year-old Coleman man had been found guilty by a jury in federal court for importing drugs from Mexico for local resale. And they just keep on coming. U.S. Attorney Roger B. Handberg has announced that Uriel Fajardo Albaran has been found guilty of one count of conspiracy to distribute 50 grams or more of methamphetamine and 3 counts of distribution of methamphetamine. Fajardo Albaran faces the minimum mandatory penalty of 10 years up to life in federal prison. A sentencing date has not yet been set. According to evidence presented during a 3-day trial, Fajardo received large amounts of methamphetamine from sources in Mexico, as well as Texas and Georgia. So did we go after all of them? If you know that's where they come from, why didn't we go have a drug bust with local officials in those areas and have them all arrested? He then transported the methamphetamine to the Middle District of Florida, where he used lower-level dealers to distribute multiple kilograms of the substance each week for approximately 2 years. You've been following this guy for 2 years, and we're just now arresting him? Fajardo, I don't know if I'm pronouncing this name correctly. I'll put it up on the screen so you can see it. Fajardo Albaran organized a network of distribution after taking over for a supplier who had previously been convicted and sentenced to federal prison. Man, we're just charging our taxpayers billions of dollars every year to feed and house and medical, take care of all these idiots. This case was investigated by the Drug Enforcement Administration, the Columbia County Sheriff's Office, the Lake City Police Department, the Florida Highway Patrol, the Unified Drug Enforcement Strike Team, the Marion County Sheriff's Office, and the Florida Department of Law Enforcement. It is being prosecuted by Assistant United States Attorneys Tyree K. Boyer and Sarah J. Schwartzberg. Load them up, move them out. To the editor. The letter to the editor from the Connecticut Snowbird didn't mention what he pays in the summer to play golf at country club courses in Connecticut. Also, as mentioned, he can't play there in the winter. Finally, he doesn't mention what he paid to rent here or the fact that his taxes in Connecticut are some of the highest in the country. This sent in by Lynn Patterson, the Village of Belvedere. I have no idea what that's all about. To the editor, my lady friend and I play water volleyball almost every day. We mainly play at Seabreeze or Ike. Ike to be an Eisenhower. It is 11 miles from our house to Ike and about half that to Seabreeze. We take our golf cart and pick up trash on our journey. Sometimes we will fill up a 5-gallon bucket twice going to Ike. Most times, always once. Many beer cans and bottles, booze bottles, wine bottles, food containers, etc. Fines should be imposed and stiff enforcement adhered to. That's sent in by Steve Brent, the village of Mira Mesa. This place used to be neat as a pin 100% of the time. Where's it coming from? Visitors, basically. Kids visiting mom and dad, grab the golf cart because it's just a toy, right? A lot of construction workers, and I have seen it. They're coming in here doing all kinds of work, not the people building the homes. Let's get it clear. It's the people that you and I hire to do work around our properties. And we're not educating them on what we will allow and won't allow here. And we're supposed to. And I have. And I can tell you, they throw things in the back of their trucks. They go driving down the road. They're not paying attention. Nothing's fastened down. And it blows out. And that's where a lot of that trash comes from. That can be ticketed by a police officer for that littering, but they probably got more important things to do. Letter to the editor. Too bad the developer is so greedy. True, there is inflation, but look at how many more residents there are. We miss Gary Morris and his promise not to go beyond State Road 44. That's sent in by Janice Isbell from the village of Belvedere. I'll take your word on that, Janice, because I don't recall anybody saying anything at any time about never going beyond 44. But I'll just take your word for that. To the editor, have you noticed that the Parade magazine has been absent from the Sunday edition of the Village's Daily Sun for the last 6 weeks or so? First, they dropped the 7-day TV Guide magazine, now the Parade magazine. Are the funnies next? That's sent in by Norman Burr, the village of Glenbrook. The Daily Sun, for those of you that may not know, it's a newspaper, the one and only newspaper here, and it's owned by the developer. To the editor, dear villagers, two requests. Please do everyone else a kindness and buy a set of headphones. No one wants to listen to the videos you're watching on your cell phone or your FaceTime conversations, particularly in the restaurants. That is rude. Number 2, control your darn dogs at the square. It's really neat that you have a dog and need to bring it to a crowded place like the square. But letting it wander around at the end of a 6-foot leash is inconsiderate. Lots of people don't want your pet, your dog, and many run the risk of tripping over the leash as you wander around. Loop your leash and keep your dog at your side, or maybe leave him home. That's sent in by Brad Wendell from the village of Summerfield. Okay, I think that's going to be the news this week. Don't forget to subscribe to the channel if you enjoy the news and some of the other videos I do. Your subscription is very important to this channel and for us to continue on doing what we do. Click the thumbs up. Click the like button. I don't know what you have, a thumbs up, a like button. So with that being said, let me just get out of here and say, don't leave your keys in the golf cart.